today I want to talk about preparedness. So if cell towers went down, if the power went out, what is your ability to communicate with people outside of your home? That is the question. All right, good morning everybody. You'll be seeing this video a little late. It is currently New Year's Day right now. I don't plan on starting posting until around April time frame, so that's around the time that you guys should see it. A couple of things before we get into today's video that I want to address. One is while the rabbits are great and I will continue to post videos of them, the rabbits are great, and I will definitely continue to post them, usually in short form content like YouTube Shorts or something like that, just because you know, they don't really like to be bothered all the time. My rabbits aren't the most outgoing. They are definitely not comfortable around a whole lot of people, so I don't like to take them a whole lot of places, and we're still getting them used to each other and us. So the rabbits are great. They will continue to be in videos, but I just wanted to address that. What I am doing is shifting towards something that is passionate to me, so a new form of content, and that is bringing, I guess, questions to you guys maybe you guys haven't thought of, helping you guys be more prepared in like this world. You know, there's a lot of stuff that I do, and everything that I do is really for my family. So my wife is the most important thing to me. She's really the only family that I have, and I'll do anything to make sure that she has a great life while we're together. So here I am going to be sharing with you a couple of questions, and maybe give you guys some answers to those questions so that you guys can figure some stuff out for you and your families. I think that this is going to be a great time, and let's get into it. All right, so I'm Dylan, and I like to do some weird stuff. All right, so I've got a lot of different hobbies, and some of them revolve around preparedness, some of them revolve around just doing stuff. So like YouTube is a hobby of mine. I don't do this for monetary value, but I do want to give back to the community that has given me so much. So a little background on me: I am a mechanic. I learned most of my mechanical skills from YouTube at a young age. I think I was around 14 or 15 when I started working on cars, and it was really out of necessity. So when I was growing up, my family didn't have very much money. My mom was a single mom, and things were tight. So when anything would break on the car, I would volunteer to try to fix it so that we didn't have to take it to a shop. That became a necessity for my family, and being able to get things done in a way that wasn't through either through traditional learning or through being able to take it to a traditional person. So like an actual like licensed mechanic, we weren't doing that just because it was too expensive for my family. So I want to be able to give back to the community that's given me so much and share some knowledge that I've learned over my life. So today I want to talk about preparedness. So if cell towers went down, if the power went out, what is your ability to communicate with people outside of your home? That is the question I pose to you. So the reason I asked this question is a little bit more background. Is a couple years ago here in Tennessee, Western Tennessee, or I guess Middle Tennessee technically is what they call it, I went through a tornado. So there was a tornado, and luckily for me, my house was not damaged. So I rent in a neighborhood, and in this neighborhood, in the back of this neighborhood, there is a what you'd call like a draw, there's a creek that runs back down there, and the tornado came and it kind of followed the hill down, and so it didn't affect my house. We lost power for I think three or 4 days, but that goes into like the preparedness thing. So like I have a small generator, so I was able to run my refrigerator, keep my food and everything like that. I was able to run small heaters because this was in December, so it was pretty cold here. But the thing is you have to be able to you have to plan ahead for things. Like the cliche saying is stay ready so you don't have to get ready. I'm not a big fan of that, because you can't stay ready for everything, but you do need a way to be prepared for scenarios. So like whether it's just game planning, like hey, if this were to happen, I need to do this, I need to do that. It's just it's kind of like having an escape, you know. So like you wouldn't build a house that only has one entrance, because if that entrance is blocked, you can't get out. You have to have a backup plan. So that kind of thing is very important to me, and I learned a lot through that experience. So during this tornado, immediately I heard wind blowing, and I actually went outside and I took a video of, I was like, oh, like blah blah blah. My wife is telling me, hey, there's a severe wind warning right now, and I was like, oh, that's pretty crazy. And then I was like, oh, I hear it, and I walked outside, and she's like, hey, it's a tornado warning, and I'm like, oh, it's right there. And I took a short video of it, and then my wife was obviously and rightfully kind of scared, so we went and hunkered down in the only room that we had in the house that didn't have a window, so it was our guest bathroom, and we went in there until it passed. Well, after it passed, you know, I'm kind of type of person that just wants to help people, so I wanted to go check and see if there was any problems. So I didn't really know what had happened, what had been hit. You could see debris in the tornado from when I saw it, but I didn't know if that was houses, I didn't know if that was buildings, I didn't know if that was just stuff it picked up off the ground. So that being said, I went to the back of the neighborhood, because that's where I figured that the tornado went. It followed the draw down to the creek, and it was better than expected, but it was still terrible for all of those families. There was power lines down, there was water pipes that had burst from houses being ripped out, there was gas lines that were leaking, there was all kinds of stuff. And I really linked in with like these two other guys that were like kind of running around. They were kind of panicked too, but we sat and we talked for a second, and we were like, all right, what do we need to do? And they're like, well, we need to turn off all this water lines and all these gas lines so there's not an explosion. The water lines was a big deal because there's down power lines, and I was nervous that if power was still going through these lines, it could cause electrocution for some people. The gas lines were leaking. I didn't want there to be an explosion, and I didn't want it to be an extra burden for emergency services whenever they got to the site, right? So I honestly expected emergency services to be there a lot quicker, because I'd never been through this before, but that was not the case. So I ran back to my house, I threw on some overalls, I got some Crocs on, and I grabbed some tools, and I went back out, and I'm walking around with some channel locks. I'm shutting off gas lines, shutting off water lines, and I'm thinking like, hey, I'm doing the most that I can do right now. So I'm trying to be as proactive for my community as I can, and I'm really not sure what else I need to do. So after all these lines are off, I'm walking down the road, and I see that there's a couple of houses that had actually been taken off the foundation. So that's when the next problem comes. So I'm standing there, and I'm like, hey, walking down the street, like people are standing outside their house because there's no power. Like, hey, do you guys need help? Do you guys need help? And all of a sudden, I get told by an elderly lady. She tells me, hey, I've got some people in here that are injured. And I was like, oh, okay, I have some experience in medical services. I'm not like a doctor or anything or a nurse, so I'm not that well trained up, but I know some first aid stuff. I was like, let me check it out. So that's when I meet these two young girls who were living in the house across the street from this elderly lady. This was a big deal. So one of them had a dislocated shoulder that I think was reset by the time we were there, but she could barely move her arm. That was not my major concern. The other young woman had a laceration on her forehead. So they had actually gotten the warning. They had been sleeping in their house. They got the warning, and the tornado had hit their home directly and ripped it off the foundation. So when they got the warning, they went down into their basement garage. So their garage went underneath their house, and while they were down there, the house got ripped off the foundation. So no garage left. It was just basically like a wall of dirt, and then where their car had used to be. But when that happened, some debris had fallen and off of the house and then hit her in the head, which my major concern with that was I didn't want her to have a concussion, which she ended up having. So we were sitting there, and I'm getting the bleeding to stop with the limited medical supplies that the lady has in her home, cleaning the wounds, trying to get stuff stitched up, get the bleeding to stop on her forehead. Once we got that done, I'm just monitoring. So I'm just making sure that she's okay, and I'm trying to make sure that everything's okay. So with her and her injury on her head. Now my next thing is, okay, now we need an ambulance. So we need to get her to a hospital, because if she is concussed, then she needs to see a doctor, and they need to do more than what I can provide. So I started trying to call the police, emergency services, call my wife. Cell towers are down. So I'm not 100% sure on what to do next. So I'm not able to do anything. I'm kind of just monitoring them and just like making sure she's staying awake. And I'm like, all right, well, this is a problem. I call up a buddy of mine who I work with, and I know that he's got some medical supplies, and I'm like, hey, I need more medical supplies. Can you bring me supplies to me? And he's like, yeah, I will try. I've got an 8-bag in my truck. He's like, I'm on my way to you. Just send me like an address. And I was like, okay. So I ended up sending him, like, he couldn't get Google Maps to load because of, or any of the navigational tools that we have. Couldn't get any of those to load because the cellular service was so bad. People were trying to call 911. Cell towers had been knocked out. Power was knocked out. So we just didn't have like good communication to be able to handle this situation. So I ended up sending him, and it took forever to send, but I ended up sending him like turn-by-turn directions. Well, that didn't work either. So there had been some power lines that were knocked down on a main road near me, and that he wasn't able to get through. Like, the police had the roads blocked off. Emergency services were the only ones that were allowed through, but we didn't have a way to contact emergency services. So that was the biggest issue. So now I'm just here, and EMS can't get into my neighborhood because of down power lines. They won't drive over the lines. We don't have a way to contact them to tell them where we are, or set up like a link up point where we can help and fix this situation. But moving forward on that, an ambulance from Nashville, Tennessee, they ended up getting rerouted up to Clarksville, where this tornado happened, and they are now providing extra emergency services throughout. They get an ambulance into the neighborhood. They won't go near this house because this house has down power lines all near it, and they can't risk it. But they come to the neighborhood, and I see them down the street, so I start running down the street. I go down the street, and I start talking to them and say, hey, I've got 2 injured. I've got one with a head laceration. I've got one with a what I assumed was a dislocated shoulder. So not the most priority. And they're both conscious and they're both verbal. So they're in their eyes, they're okay. So we're talking about that, and they're like, okay, so we have a lady here who just went into labor. And I'm like, oh, that is, yeah, obviously that is priority. But when you guys take her, I was like, I need you guys to come back. I was like, because I'm gonna stay with them, and I need you to come back so that you can pick up this girl. And they're like, okay, cool. So they leave, they come back. This is like another hour ordeal because they have to get through all the traffic and everything with all the roads shut down. So they get that lady to the hospital, which is great. And then they come back, and then I'm still there, and I go get them again. I'm like, hey, this girl is now in and out of consciousness. She's trying to go to sleep. She's just complaining about how she's tired and she wants to go to sleep. I'm like, I can't let her go to sleep because she is concussed. And if you know anything about concussions, if you fall asleep when you have a concussion, it is very possible that you will not wake up. So they're like, okay, yeah, priority is now her. We are going to get her. So we get the gurney thing that goes in the back of the ambulance out, and it's kind of like a litter, but it's like way more fancy. We get that out, and then we start pulling it down the street, right? So we're dodging the electrical lines. I don't think that they're live because obviously nobody has power, but we're trying not to interfere with those. Stuff is hanging down the road that ambulance can't physically drive through without touching them. So we get down there, they start checking them out, confirm my diagnosis, which doesn't really matter because I'm not a doctor or anything, of a concussion, and the head laceration has been fixed. I'm like, hey, do you have any gauze? He brings gauze out. I'm able to wrap her head up and get her cleared to go onto the gurney. So we get her on the gurney. The other girl is able to walk, so we get them down down the road into the ambulance, and that's the end of the story. So I am able to get them to safety, and then I continue my rounds of checking on people to see if anybody needs help. So that was a huge deal to me because it made me really reflect on what the problem was afterwards. And the problem was not the tornado. It was not having injuries that I have to treat, which me not having my own aid bag at the time was kind of a problem. But it was mostly communication. So I was not able to communicate with people who were able to provide help and aid to those who needed it. I did put myself in the situation where I was able to go and try to solve this problem, but I just didn't have a way to communicate with law enforcement, with medical services, with anybody who maybe could have communicated with them. I didn't have anybody to relay information through, and that is a huge problem whenever you're dealing with those situations. So that is what brings us to our video today. And I hope that you guys are sticking around because this is something that I'm really passionate about, and I hope that you guys can find that passion with me to be able to help those in your community and in your family. So stick around and we'll get into some ways that you can communicate out even when the power is down, when the cell towers are down. All right, well, hello there again. Here we are at Dunbar Cave State Park in Clarksville, Tennessee. It's the closest state park to me, and you might be wondering what I am doing here. Well, right now I am hanging an antenna. So this antenna is a 2 meter / 70 centimeter Edfong J-pole antenna, and I am going to attempt to hang it up right here. So this is more of a complex solution, more complex than most people would need. I am just doing this for testing purposes. I don't know if anybody will be on here today. It is a new year, and it is a new year, and yeah, so just doing some testing stuff. All right, so we wanted to talk about how we are going to be more prepared in the communication aspect of things. So the number one thing that you're going to need to do is figure out a PACE plan. So a PACE plan is PACE, so Papa Alpha Charlie Echo. It stands for your primary, your alternate, your contingency, and your emergency. A good PACE plan really shouldn't have too much of a gap between those. So like your primary and is like one thing, and then like your alternate is like on the moon. So like you really want it to make the most sense for the easiest amount of work for you, right? So PACE plans can get kind of complicated and convoluted, but for our situations, for communications, at least for the everyday person, it shouldn't have to be that in depth, right? So right now, your PACE plan is probably something like, okay, if I need to get information to someone, then I will call them. And if they don't answer, maybe I'll send them a text and then just wait on that. Oh, well, they're not really getting my text either, so maybe I write an email. Okay, well, that's, moving in a direction, so that's like all things good. And then maybe your emergencies, like maybe I'm gonna go to their house and like check on them. So it's like a decent thing here, but with a PACE plan, you really want the ability to see, you want to have different means, right? So you want to have your primary is one system, and then your alternate is a completely different system that has nothing to do with your primary. So in my case, like my primary is going to be my cell phone. So if I need to contact my wife, I will use my cell phone, and I will either text or call. I have a couple of different apps that I can use for texting and calling, but that is just still within my primary. And then my alternate may be, let's say we don't have cell service, right? Then I have a Starlink. I have a Starlink Mini, and I have it. I don't pay for the full subscription. I pay for the $5 a month, and I do that because I can use that Starlink Mini in areas that do not have cellular service. 0.5 megabyte per second of data upload, but it's unlimited for the month for $5. So that's all right. That's a little bit better. It's hard looking into the sun. So looking at the Starlink Mini, that is my alternate in my PACE plan for communications. The reason for that is because it's so easy to use. If I don't have cellular service and my wife does, then I'm able to contact her really easy. So she doesn't have to have anything extra. I just have to have the Starlink, and then I can hook up and I can send text messages and I can call. Talking about the Wi-Fi calling, you definitely need to have Wi-Fi calling set up before you try to use it, okay? So if cellular service is down and you try to hook up to the Starlink Mini, and you're gonna be successful, but if you try to call over Wi-Fi calling, it will not work because you have to set up Wi-Fi calling on cellular network. The reason for this is because you have to put in a bunch of information, like your address and stuff like that, so that you can, if you have to call emergency services while there is no cellular service, then that information will be there for the operator. So very important, make sure you set up Wi-Fi calling. Even now, that doesn't even have to be, you don't even have to have a Starlink. You could just, maybe you just need to have that done. Like Wi-Fi calling is one of the greatest things that has come for emergency services, because even when there's a disaster like this, maybe you don't have a Starlink, maybe somebody else has some type of satellite internet that they're able to hook up. So very important, just something to think about. I made my wife set it up and hers wasn't set up, so it is very important. At least check. Yeah, so next in my PACE plan would be contingency. So that would be a radio. So this is a radio, right? So it's a Baofeng UV5R. It's an amateur radio. I have other radios, one being a GMRS radio, right? So those are channelized, so it stands for Ground Mobile Radio Service, I believe. You can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But GMRS is really good, and I'll tell you why. So one, it gives you access, it's the same frequencies as FRS, so like the bubble pack radios that you can buy at Walmart or Target. Those radios are good. That should be, if you don't have a radio plan and you don't want to do anything else, you should have those at least, because then you can walk out into your yard, you can walk down the street, and you can talk to your family in a disaster, right? You can hand them out to family and friends, and you guys can all communicate, because communication is the only thing that stops chaos in a disaster, all right? So being able to do that, you will have you'll have some means of communication, right? So no cellular, just your FRS radios, so family radio service radios, and then maybe you want to step up into another direction. Maybe you want to go to GMRS. So it uses the same frequencies. So you might be asking, why do you want to use that? Why would you do that if you don't need to? The main reason would be because you can push more watts, so more power output from a radio. So FRS radios, I believe, are limited to 0.5 watt of output power. This radio, which is an amateur radio, again, not a GMRS radio, is able to push out 5 watts of power. So it's a pretty significant jump there. The reason that this is important is because more watts, not always, but can mean more distance. So the farther away you are, the better. The other reason is in your area, and you can look this up, there might be GMRS repeaters. So repeaters are really cool. I'm more into radio to radio connection and less on repeaters, but that's just my personal preference for planning for scenarios where repeaters might not be available. But repeaters are really cool because depending on where you are and what radio club is running them or individual, they can be free to you. You can use that. So you get your GMRS license, you have a call sign, you say, all right, so thanks to some camera difficulties, it was shutting off because of 4K mode and everything. I switched to HD. So that being said, here we are talking about PACE plans. So yeah, we're on to contingency. So we have GMRS. GMRS is a great contingency for everyone. So you getting a GMRS license is not just you getting it, but your whole family getting one. So it costs $35. You have to set up a CORS account through the FCC, and then you will get a call sign. So that being said, you get this call sign and your whole family can use it. So your mother, father, stepmother, stepfather, brother, stepbrother, sister, stepsister, children, they can all use it, all right? You have to be, I think, 15 or 16 to apply for the license, but there's no age requirement to actually utilize the information for the license. That is the thing that drew me to GMRS and what kind of started this whole journey. Once I started doing research into communications outside of the typical cellular communications. Yeah, so GMRS, great option, but it is a little limited. So you get into some things. So GMRS is all through the 70 centimeter band, which is just what they call the section of UHF, which is ultra high frequency, that the frequency space that GMRS uses goes into. So that's the only thing you get out of that. Another option would be MERS. So MERS is another free to use, but when you buy the radio, that is what is licensed. So you can buy like the FRS radios, you can buy a MERS radio, and that runs on a different set of frequencies. So you get 5 channels on that, and they are in the very high or VHF frequency spectrum, meaning that they are in the 2 meter band. So their wavelengths are 2 meters from point to point instead of 70 centimeters, which is different. I don't really know how much different, because I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But it can make, the lower the frequency, which very high sounds very high, but the lower the frequency, the farther sometimes it can go. VHF and UHF are not really in that space, but then you get into HF radio. So that is high frequency. So you see how we're getting lower and lower. So you got ultra high frequency, you got very high frequency, and then you got high frequency. So that's just how technology goes. So that's all really cool. And I think that is very applicable. Now, for my emergency, I'm not going to jump down bands to the high frequency, because my wife doesn't have an amateur radio license, which is what is required to speak on those bands. So instead of doing that and introducing bulkier equipment and making my wife go get a license for this, it is really simple. It is called Meshtastic. So this here is a Meshtastic node. This is really easy to use. I actually put this one together myself. It comes as a chip, and then you upload firmware onto it, and then you put it into the case, hook up the battery, and screw on the antenna. And that's it. So that sounds a little bit more complicated than some of you might want to use. So you could get something like this. So this here looks like a solar panel or a battery pack, but it is not. So this is also a Meshtastic node. This one's a little bit more expensive. This is around $90, but this is a solar panel on top. It has a port here, so you can hook up a external antenna, but it has a built-in antenna. And then you power this on, and it connects to your phone via Bluetooth. Your phone then acts like the user interface, as it were, to be able to send text messages. So this app here, so I actually had one of these on during a flight, and I don't know if you can see that, but on a flight, I'll provide a screenshot to this. From Tennessee to Washington, I was able to connect to over 400 nodes. That does not mean that I was able to talk to all of them, and I didn't, but I was able to connect to them, and that means that in an emergency situation, the way that a mesh network works is if this node is here and this node is here, my phone's connected to this one, then it'll bounce the system the message from this one to this one and onto another node as far as it can. So I have mine set up to 7 hops, as it's called in the app, and that would be, it can go through 7 different nodes before, okay, we have to terminate this message. And that is really interesting. So to tie that back into the tornado story, if I would have had this back then, I would have been able to text my wife. I would have been able to talk to other people in town. The farthest that I've been able to do in Tennessee is I've been able to talk to nodes all the way up in Hopkinsville, which is about 30 minutes away. And that's just based off of radio to radio communication. Now, it was with one of these little guys, which have a removable antenna, and this antenna is absolutely tiny, but I did buy some cheap 915 megahertz antennas off of Amazon, and I hooked those up, and I hung this off of a little piece of twine and a carabiner off of a string that I had in my backyard, and it probably brought it up to 12, 15 feet off the ground, and that definitely made a drastic improvement. So with the larger antenna, being able to get more gain and being able to talk to nodes farther and farther away. This is not to get into like the technical side of any of this stuff, but it is important to think about. Like, this is completely license free. You're using a spectrum of the airwaves that is allowed to be used without a license. So you can build these yourself. I think this one costs $35 on Amazon, and the firmware is free, and you set it up, and once it's set up, you're able to then go and use it. You just need a smartphone and one of these nodes, and then that's it. You can talk to other people. Now, depending on the area that you're in, you might have a better infrastructure for the mesh network. The mesh network, the more people there are, the better the network there is. But if you are, let's say, if everybody here had one, then I would want to turn my hops way down. So I wouldn't be at 7, I'd probably be at 1 or 2, because if everybody was set to 7 and we're sending these messages constantly, then it would overload the network, and you just get more disruption because there's so much stuff going on on the spectrum. So that is all really good stuff. So you've got, just to recap, we've got our PACE plan. So primary is cellular, and then Wi-Fi calling without any. You got cellular, and then you've got Wi-Fi calling, but the Wi-Fi in the primary is just primary Wi-Fi. It's just your Wi-Fi that you already have set up in your house, maybe at the coffee shop, something like that. Emergency would be satellite Wi-Fi. So Starlink, hooking that up and being able to use that off the grid in case the cellular and power's out, so you couldn't use Wi-Fi in your home or your at a local business. And then you've got your contingency. So contingency would be radio. So I've got this radio here. It hasn't been too active today. I've had it on this whole time, and just scanning some local repeaters and the national calling frequency and the national adventure frequency. 146.52 and 146.58, I believe. So yeah, those are all really great things, and you guys should look into those for yourself. I'm not here to be the know-it-all and think that I have everything figured out, but as you heard in my story with the tornado, there is a ton of reason to get this. There's a ton of reason to look into your plan for your family. There's a ton of reason to try to be more helpful in the community. people say that we're all divided, but you know, we're all really just looking to do something to make the world a better place, and that's why I'm making this video. That's why I want to help you guys out. So thank you for watching. If you're still here, please subscribe, like, and comment below if you guys have any. Like, I want to know what your pace plan is. Maybe I can implement some of that stuff on my end, because I do want to connect with people. I do want to be able to share this information with people, and I do want you guys to be prepared as well. You know, I don't want to be the guy that's on the king of the hill at the end of times, and you know, not that I think that's going to happen, but natural disasters do happen, and you know, there's a lot of good scenarios where things have been better off because of, you know, regular civilians that have just been doing their part. So thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for more information like this, more videos, and hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys later. Fly the drone around a little bit, get some good footage for you guys. Hopefully you guys can enjoy it. I'm not very good at flying this thing yet. I just got it for Christmas, so let's try it out. Usually in the form of usually in the short form content, I will post them, but and with the $5 a month, half a megabit or whatever it is per month, or unlimited half a megabyte of data upload. Is it